Evening one. So thanks for joining. I'm Ben. I'm the CEO of Good Boost. My background is in musculoskeletal research. I'm an MSK clinical champion for versus arthritis, one of the leading charities in MSK and arthritis research. I'm the chair of the MSK expert group for the World Health Innovation Summit. And I'm currently completing a fellowship researching the role of gamification for older adult MSK rehab. So this has been my big area and drive for quite a few years now. My drive is figuring out how to create the tools and solutions that existing community assets, spaces can offer community health and well-being services. And Good Boost, well, I'll tell you more about it now. So it started as a research project about 5 years ago. And that was because of seeing patients waiting for hip and knee replacements and struggling to increase their activity, to increase their leg strength before surgery. Because if you're on a surgical waiting list, your hips, your knees are likely to be so advanced in arthritis that most movement is always going to be painful. So we tried inviting people to a local pool in Oxford to follow an Aqua rehab program, and it went really well. Made some positive improvements, and we had requests to keep going. And now, 5 years later, we're a social enterprise delivering affordable and accessible therapeutic exercise programs for people living with musculoskeletal conditions on water and land. And we're all about transforming any space into a therapeutic place using technology. And we want everyone to love looking after their health by moving more, having fun, and feeling better. And what we've become is the Zumba of arthritis Aqua Rehab, enabling community venues to deliver community MSK rehab in water and now on dry land by upskilling their staff, having our waterproof tablets on site with Good Boost installed that creates personalised rehab programs, making these existing community assets and put them at the heart of community MSK health and wellbeing. We're partnered with Swim England, and we're working with them on their water wellbeing program to support pools to offer more than just the traditional swimming. And we're also part of Microsoft's AI for Good cohort, and we've been supported by funding by multiple organizations, and we're actually growing to Europe this summer as well. So the reason we started is because of the size of the problems. And joint pain and conditions or musculoskeletal conditions such as back pain, arthritis, inflammatory joint disorders are the primary cause of disability on the planet. This isn't just a niggle in your knee or an ache in your back. It's a collection of disorders that affects 18 million people in the UK, 1.3 billion globally. And a report by the WHO in December calculates for about 2.4 billion people around the planet in need of rehabilitation, with the majority of them because of a musculoskeletal condition too. In the UK alone, there's an estimated cost of about 100 billion a year because of the cost of treatment and economic loss due to sick leave and lost productivity. This is a huge challenge. And with an aging society, increasing obesity, greater sedentary behaviours, things that contribute to increased prevalence of MSK conditions, is a problem that's not going to slow down anytime soon. And after COVID, there's been huge pressures placed on orthopedic, physiotherapy, MSK services, with patients not being able to have access to services and a growing waiting list for treatments and surgeries. So what we know is that water works for MSK conditions, and Aqua Rehab research demonstrates is as effective and in many cases more effective than land rehab for conditions. And land rehab isn't always possible for people due to pain, limited function, and people need options to be active in water because for a lot of people, Aqua Rehab is preferred. Conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, other inflammatory joint disorders, aquatic activity is generally much more preferred than land rehab. And Aqua Rehab or aquatic activity is the second most preferred exercise for people with a health condition after walking. So people really want to get in the water. But there are too few aquatic physiotherapists and there are too few hydropools as well, making it inaccessible for a lot of people. In the UK, there is one hydropool for every 325,000 people in the UK. A report a couple of years ago highlighted there are twice as many canine hydropools as there are human hydropools. So what we're here to do as Good Boost is create solutions to utilize existing public and community swimming pools to democratize the access to Aqua Rehab. In the UK, there are around 4,000 publicly accessible pools, and there are about 500,000 globally. And if you count residential swimming pools, there are around 27 million pools on the planet. there is a huge untapped resource to support people with joint and pain conditions that's local, affordable, accessible, and also personalized to them. So what we do is Aqua AI Rehab, and it's individually tailored aqua exercises selected by AI, and exercises adapt and respond to feedback just like a therapist. It's been designed by specialist physios and clinical experts that we know improves pain, function, and overall quality of life at the fraction of the price of an aqua physio or a private aqua instructor. And what we do now is over 2020 during lockdown, we retrained our AI to support people on land as well, to follow personalized programs while shielding. And for pools that are relaunching this spring and summer, it means that they can support people wet side and now dry side too. And we also designed our own waterproof tablets because there was nothing that was fit for purpose in the market years ago, or they were just too expensive. So our tablets are waterproof, they're quick and easy clip charging, they float, built-in stand, they're rugged. Because when we started, rugged tablets were incredibly expensive, and we used to use really cheap tablets in waterproof cases, but the reality was that wasn't a solution that was scalable. So over time, we've now designed the hardware as a solution that's a plug and play option for any pool. So what does it look like in practicality? How do you take technology and AI and throw it into the water? Well, what we do, we work with leisure centres, hotels, retirement villages, anywhere that has a pool, and we transform that space into a therapeutic place so that they can deliver an individually tailored MSK rehab service in their community. And we support them with three ingredients. We deliver our technology, which is clinical exercise technology. We provide them with a custom waterproof and rugged tablets, and we set them up and we provide their staff with training so that they're confident to support people living with MSK conditions to be active at their venue following Good Boost. And this is what happens. From our demographic data, we know we are impacting some of the hardest to reach groups and those that are at highest risk of health inequality. We support older adults, people who are physically inactive, high levels of obesity, low income, multiple long-term health conditions. And what's really interesting looking at the data is about a third of our participants have reported not being able to walk more than 100 meters at registration. For these people, walking groups is not an accessible form of exercise, but often that's what's put forward as the accessible and inclusive low-hanging fruit as an exercise and activity option. So we're a social enterprise, and so gathering impact data is hugely important for us to understand how our technology works and if we're creating a social impact that aligns with our mission to improve musculoskeletal health for people everywhere. And we particularly focus on those hard-to-reach groups that experience many barriers and health inequalities. And what's the great thing about impact is that award submissions love impact too. And last year we had a whole swathe of them. It seems that review panels give big points and for big stats. So impact measurement has been enable us to really understand our product, our solution, how it's supporting people, but it's meant that we've won multiple awards in the last couple of years. And we've had many learnings since starting Good Boost. So we originally thought as a team of clinicians and engineers that we'd be supporting people aged 40 to 60 in the pool, but it actually ended up being a much higher number, people more 60 to 85. And so we had to really then go back to think about our design. Suddenly we were supporting people to use technology and they didn't even have a smartphone. For many, this was their first time using a device, and we were trying to pump it full of AI and all the kind of wizzy stuff we wanted to, but we had to really go back to the drawing board and co-design that with our users to make sure it was accessible to them, to make sure that challenges of visual impairment wasn't a problem either. And we've also had learnings because when we started, we never imagined that non-swimmers would come and jump into a swimming pool, but it ended up being almost 11% of our participants are non-swimmers. Look at the numbers, almost a quarter are non-swimmers or very low confidence swimmers, or we call them side holders because they like holding the side for that level of confidence. And this led us to review what kind of exercises we have in our database. So we knew we had to expand our shallow water database so that we could respond to those users. So as well as tracking our impact, it meant that we could better develop what we do to support more people, because we were suddenly getting people who would never think about going into a swimming pool, going into the first time, potentially since they were a child. And we were able to identify that about 30% or about just over a quarter of users were from some of the lowest income households postcodes in the UK. And one of our big that cause of our mission is cutting through health inequalities, and one of the biggest health inequalities is because of income inequality. So we know we're really starting to cut through those barriers of accessing MSK, good MSK health and well-being. And over time, we learned that Good Boost works. We know that it improves pain, which is the most cited symptom when people have an MSK condition. Then we're starting to understand that it improves function too. And you can see the little animation there, the GIF. You get these improved sit-to-stand scores, which is a functional movement test. So we know that those key MSK outcomes of pain and function are being achieved. But it wasn't that simple either, because everybody lies. And if you look at some of the data from the sit-to-stand scores that people were self-reporting, they were beyond the possibilities of rehabilitation science. We were seeing 100%, 150%, 250% improvements in sit-to-stand scores in 4 to 8 weeks. Just not possible. Either people were misunderstanding the question or the test, or reporting numbers to make it look like that they had hugely improved. But that made us think deeper, because this is a really important score for us to capture. It makes us understand if we're actually having the social impact we want to see. So how do we get beyond this challenge of self-reporting? So we applied to Innovate UK, and we're currently developing a computer vision system that objectively monitors users to complete physiotherapy function tests. And this means that people can't misunderstand the test, they can't lie, they can't cheat, and it means that we can gather that data. This is currently being evaluated by Oxford Brookes University against what is the current measurement gold standard to ensure accuracy and clinical validity. But without a doubt, it was our impact measurement that we included in our Innovate application that we're sure was part of the reason we were able to get through. And so this is why kind of social enterprise using AI to deliver services, actually that impact measurement is such valuable stuff. And what we're developing now, we believe we support more hard to reach groups and create more impact. So it's a virtuous circle we're trying to create. And that ultimately worked out that Aqua Rehab, that it does work. We know it does. We're a team of researchers and clinicians, but we're able to demonstrate within our program, delivering Aqua Rehab using waterproof tablets and public pools selected by AI, meant that people did improve their pain and function. And what this means now as an organization, we can start planning where our impact is going next. How are we going to use technology and AI to achieve much broader changes in society? And in the next 5 years, we want to keep transforming more places into a therapeutic space. We want to create almost 3,500 of people either delaying or avoiding a hip and knee replacement. We want to create multiple millions of pounds of health savings, either to the individual or to health systems. But also, when you look at people traveling to a local swimming pool as opposed to going to multiple appointments to a faraway clinic or an outpatient department, we know we're saving miles traveled as well as the carbon saving on top of that. So what we're doing is using technology to improve pain, function, overall quality of life, particularly for people living, experiencing disability because of a musculoskeletal condition or a pain disorder, so that we can keep reducing MSK health inequalities so people have fun, move more, and feel better. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Ben. I've also decided you have got a very good voice, and I could also listen to you all night. So I don't want to discriminate against the speakers, but mate, that was absolutely, fantastic. And again, it's really highlighted the data for Good Month for me. Learning about these different use cases, the fantastic companies that are out there, solving real world problems using technology and data. So, thank you very, very much for coming to share with us. I guess I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to perhaps kick things off with. And as before, the Q&A is open. So I kind of just wanted to get your opinion in terms of, it's probably a big question to go straight in with, but is AI, trying to replace physios? Is that where we're going with this, or what does it look like going forward?
I've been having this conversation for a very long time. The short answer is no. The size of the challenge is so humongous. There is no way. There was such a shortage of healthcare professionals generally across the board, globally. It's just not feasible or possible. And also, what we do is never going to replace that human interaction. That the thing that patients really enjoy in a clinical setting is having someone to be there and talk to. Actually, sometimes psychologically, someone kind of assessing you functionally and going, yeah, you're right, actually, you're not moving as well in that leg. That validation that you're right, it's not in your head. We're just not able to do that. And
Yeah.
that's something that's never going to be replaced. And what we're being used more as is we're being seen as a tool. And that's exactly what we're trying to make, is that waiting lists are huge. There is a huge burden on NHS services and other health services in the world. If clinicians know that they can confidently discharge a patient and have an exit plan for them to go into the local community, they're going to get safe, appropriate, optimal sessions with other people, have that peer support group, that means that that person's going to much better look after their health. Just like with any treatment, the intervention is just one part of recovery. Actually, recovery is usually making some adjustments in your lifestyle long term. So we're now being seen very much as a tool. So no, there is no way that this will ever replace any form of healthcare professional.
And I guess the drive for that, we had a similar, not similar talk at all, but actually we were talking to someone else within the med tech space, and they were saying that actually by being proactive in this way, longer term, it's going to save admissions, it's going to save days in NHS beds, it's going to save money, longer term by getting this part, this part right, which sounds fantastic. We had a very technical question coming from Paul. Paul was keen to know actually a bit more what it looks like under the hood in terms of what your data tech stack looks like. How's it set up at Good Boost?
I'm not the person to be asking, Paul. And this talk was meant to be co-delivered by Sam as well, who works at Good Boost, who would have answered that question.
Sam's the man for that.
We use a multi-label classification system. So when people come along, they fill a digital questionnaire. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's one of our biggest challenges that people hate filling out forms. But without that information, we're not able to then push that through our AI system to make selections. But it's based upon a few different factors, such as their musculoskeletal condition, like have they had a diagnosis or not? If they have that diagnosis, how long have they had it? If not, how long have they been experienced, say, pain in their knee? Do they find certain movements painful or not? So what we've been doing is applying decades of research, clinical guidelines, and we also work internally as a team. We've got quite a few clinicians, but also we invite clinicians externally as well to make sure that the rationale behind what we're doing, how information is being processed, is primarily safe, then appropriate, and then optimal. So people will come along, fill information, it will get sent off, it will be reviewed, sent back, they'll have their exercises. We create an ongoing feedback loop. So people then complete their exercises, and then they will provide us with more information. What was painful, or what did they enjoy, or what felt difficult? Was actually they were doing exercise for their knee, but actually it was their back or shoulder that they found that was twinging while they're doing it. So having this feedback loop means that it's a continually evolving and adapting program. I can't give you any more technical information than that, but I'm sure one of our team members would be happy to, Paul.
Paul's been in touch in the chat to say it's absolutely no problem, and he really liked your data visualizations and stats. So you caught his eye with the presentation. The other question that's come in there is coming from Hamad. He's talking about who you work with. So who are the I guess buyers of your system? Is it purely through the NHS? Is it local councils? Are you working with private companies? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's mostly looked like kind of councils or leisure trusts that buy us in. We work with retirement settings that buy us in. We work with private pool operators and private leisure centres that buy us in. And I mean, they work differently. So some of them have a tendering contract with the local council, so they've got to deliver some element of health and well-being. We help them do that, but also what we do is, because we track everything, it's one of the first times that leisure centres have been able to have what essentially is almost a real-time clinical trial going on with baseline measures, follow-up measures, aggregate data dashboards, so they're able to demonstrate their health impact. So yes, it's directly with those kind of venues, whether it's hotels, retirement villages, leisure centres, swimming pools, but usually they work with either public health or local authorities and councils that they have a remit to deliver health and well-being.
Fantastic. And what's your plans in terms of growth over the next couple of years? Is it a case of bringing on more and more councils? Are you looking to expand your team? What does it look like?
Yeah,
I keep saying, what does it look like? Where did that come from? Sorry, over to you, Ben.
So we've just got a contract with Pfizer, so we're actually launching in a few European countries this summer to test it out, because we want to test the principles that in terms of translation, the cultural challenges in terms of going to different nations. That's what we're testing this summer. But from this summer as well, we're also launching. So at the moment, you can only access Good Boost if you go to a public pool or a venue that has some of our waterproof tablets in pre-installed when they relaunch April or May, from April, May next in this coming spring, summer. But we're actually designing it so it's a publicly available app for Aqua Rehab from this summer. So actually it'll be downloadable as well. So that's how we're changing. We're moving from what's traditionally been directly B2B to actually having a B2C option too.
Amazing. Amazing. That was actually one of the questions that had just come in there from Hamad as well. So fantastic. I guess one of the things that I was thinking about, as you were talking and stuff like that, it was getting access, people using the platform and stuff like that. So I just wondered whether you'd thought about, how to overcome tech inaccessibility or data poverty. Is that something that you guys have covered off?
Yeah, we're starting to figure it out, but we're nowhere near it. So co-design has been a huge part of what we do and understanding. So even during a pandemic last year, we were able to deliver 24 virtual co-design focus groups or workshops. And that was people living with health conditions, also with musculoskeletal charities. So from that, we were able to understand the barriers again and really spend that time doing that. So cutting through inequalities and cutting like health technology and accessibility. So the great thing about having a public venue like a pool, having the tablets on site, having a Wi-Fi connection, and often if they provide means tested memberships. So if you can't afford a full price membership, they'll offer a lower cost membership. So suddenly, actually, Good Boost is charged about the same price as a swim in most areas, but for some people, it's even less than that. So actually, suddenly they can get access to all the things they need to get involved with Good Boost. Yes, that's completely geographically linked at the moment because we would have been about 70, 80 pools by now if it wasn't for the pandemic. But even still, 70, 80 pools in a nation of 60 odd million people is nowhere. So we're working to get through it.
Yeah, I think that there'll be hopefully for everybody, all businesses, a good positive bounce as we start to come out of this, and things will be on that road to growth very quickly, man. So awesome. So I think in terms of that side of things, we're kind of getting to the point of wrapping things up. So I'm actually going to welcome Yulan back, if she is there, please, just to say thank you very much to you both. So yeah, absolute pleasure to have you both speaking at the Data Science Festival. Personally, obviously wanted to thank you for giving up your time in the evening to come and share with us. It was absolutely lovely hearing what you had to share, and hopefully, if we do get the chance to have live events as the year goes on, maybe we'll get the chance to do that before the year's out and get you to come and share in person as well. But yeah, I hope you both enjoyed it, and yeah, it was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perfect, no problem. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining at home. Please do check out other events. We've shared both speakers' LinkedIn profiles and things like that in the chat, and I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you as well. But thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.